Thank you, everyone. Apologies for that delay, but I think it was worth it to get our young minister to go and meet all the startups that I must say I loved her enthusiasm also. It felt as if she wanted to do one of these also herself and get involved. But it's wonderful to see such a young minister promote investments in Punjab. So it really, really worked out very well. Thank you also to all of you for introducing her quickly, for being here again, and as Som told me, we have $10 billion worth of money in this room, so that's a rather large sum of money to have. And I have with me Kanwaljit Singh from Fireside Ventures, who is the finest amongst them. And I won't bore you with all his details. I will ask him to introduce himself a little bit, if I may, to everybody. He's done some wonderful deals. He's promoted some great businesses in the past. His experience with brands such as Paperboat, ID Fresh, Delicious, etc. is wonderful. They are amazing success stories. And, you know, Kamal, thank you for again taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule. Thank you for being here. And if you could just talk a little bit about your background yourself to the audience, I would love that. And then we'll get into the question and answers.
Thank you, Pramod, and thank you, I am Punjab. It's been a pretty revealing last almost 12-18 hours since I landed here in the evening yesterday. Just the spirit, the energy, the buzz, and I was telling Somdev last night that you don't need to worry about money, like Pramod said. You need to create an ecosystem. And I think the ecosystem is starting to evolve, and I think ultimately to me that is really what will drive success for an entrepreneurial ecosystem. So my journey, I've used a word in the past saying I'm an accidental VC. I started out as a very corporate citizen, spent about 10 years with Hindustan Lever, about 3 years with Intel, always loved consumer brands. And then for some force of accidents, ended up in the VC world. Just before I joined that, Pramod may not know this, I was actually interviewing with GE. So, I had some friends there who insisted that was a
You escaped that.
No, so I, fortunately or unfortunately, I did not end up joining. But there was some conversation which happened with some very good friends who were in GE at that point of time. So I started out my investing career actually with a group called Carlyle. It's a very large private equity group. They were setting up a venture arm in Asia, and they wanted somebody from a business background. So I was one of those, strange combination of zero investing background, and found myself in the VC world trying to work with startups. So my passion, my love has always been working with entrepreneurs. And to me, money has been a via media to engage with people like yourself. That's been the most fulfilling part of my journey. I was telling Aparna, my daughter turned entrepreneur 2 years ago, so that's the pinnacle of having been able to influence somebody in the family to do that. I spent about 4 years at Carlyle, then decided to turn entrepreneurial with a fund called Helion. So 4 of us started a fund which was very much on the lines of a Silicon Valley style fund. We would invest in early stage companies, help them, raised about $600 million. And after 10 years, I had this epiphany that I really wanted to be in the consumer space. And that was like almost out of nowhere. There was nobody investing in early stage consumer. There was no ecosystem. So it was almost like, one of those stage of life questions saying, what am I doing here? And this was around the time when I just turned 50. So, those existential questions about, ab kya karna hai aage? So decided to step out, took the decision not to raise another fund. And I said, whatever savings I have, whatever money I have, managed to get to put together, I will invest in startups as an individual angel investor. But I did a slightly different thing. I said, I will do it as a day job. So I will not write checks while I am doing something else. I will take board seats, I will work with companies. And this was a time when something very phenomenal happened. I met amazing entrepreneurs in the consumer space which I didn't even know was robust. So I had done Paperboat, I had done ID Fresh, I met founders of Epigamia, Mama, Delicious. And I realized that there was something very seminal happening on the ground where internet and digital, both media and commerce, was disrupting the whole business of consumer brands. And that then led to the realization that maybe there is a story here which nobody has ever fully understood. So that led to the start of the Fireside journey. We raised $50 million with almost all of it came from Indian family offices. So people like Harsh Mariwala, people like Premji Invest, Sanjeev Goenka, Sunil Munjal, they were our first sponsors. And then the corporates came along, Hindustan Leaf, Unilever put in some money, ITC, Imami, they all invested with us. And that was the start of the journey. And what we have seen is that in the last 5 years, the disruption in the consumer brand space has been almost significant to the extent that it has challenged everything we know and we heard about brand building in our Levers days. So love to explore more, but just the nuts and bolts. We now run a third fund, which is 230 million. Have invested about 200 odd million already in consumer brands, and the whole story of consumer brands is also evolving. So happy to explore more on that. But we believe that this is the time when it's great to be an entrepreneur. Lots of opportunity. Money is a commodity. And consumer has always been exciting and just becomes more and more interesting. So my pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. What a story, Kamal. I think coming from Hindustan Levers, coming from Intel, and then moving into venture capital, not many people make that move successfully. I mean, I've been trying to make that move. I've done it very unsuccessfully. I've lost a lot of money. But hopefully you make a lot more money than I have made. But although we've done quite well, I shouldn't say. Aparna is looking at me because we run Asha Impact, and she will kill me for this later on. And we run a Asha Impact investment fund also, which is actually very successful. And so I shouldn't say that. But just to get into it, there are so many entrepreneurs here which were in the consumer space. Come and talk a little bit to us and to everybody about what has changed in the consumer space. What has got so democratized that it is allowing 1,000 consumer brands to bloom, firstly. There are other things also happening, like Meesho, I think, came out recently and said they had 500 million downloads of their app in the last whatever period of time, the fastest download of apps, faster than ChatGPT, in fact, right? Because they've been able to provide a low bandwidth network and platform that can be used by many different entrepreneurs across. ONDC is happening. So we'll talk about that a little as to what that impact of the open network for digital commerce will be, particularly on entrepreneurs and consumer networks. But talk to us a little bit about what has changed, how it's changing, and how can many of our startups here take advantage of it?
So I think, let me talk about both sides, Pramod. Let me talk about what has changed and what has not changed. I think both are equally important, and I think we miss the second part often, especially on the entrepreneurial side. What has changed is, like you said, democratization of access. Because consumers were just impossible to reach through the traditional channels that existed in India for the last 100 years. So, having come from a Unilever, I know their biggest strength is the distribution network they have. Going to mom and pop small stores, being able to talk to consumers, across the entire country, the mass media that you can use to reach the consumer. This was not the game for entrepreneurs. So clearly, the first barrier to entry for any young entrepreneur wanting to build a consumer brand was access. What internet or what digital did is it opened up that access. So I think what, for example, you pioneered the BPO business, where the telecom infrastructure in some sense, opened that thing out. The banking took a leapfrog because again, technology happened. So I think infrastructure was the first big, disruptor for the opportunity of consumer brands. So I think that would be the first, I would say, most important element. Second element was the acceleration of what we saw. None of us anticipated that. I mean, could we build a 5,000 crore brand in 5-6 years like Boat? Could we build a 1,000 crore brand like Mamaearth in 5 years? Well, we never thought of that. Like you said, you can't imagine that kind of success. I think COVID helped there. So, it was a big, human, almost like a health disaster, and it was a, major setback to the world. But it, in a very strange way, accelerated the adoption of everything digital. And I think third thing that has happened now is the consciousness of the consumer, especially the millennials, the Gen Z, the younger generation, in wanting to consume thoughtfully. And thoughtfully has two sides to it. Thoughtfully of what you are consuming, so wellness, thinking about pack of pack, thinking of preservative, thinking about natural, and thoughtfully in the context of what it does to the world, to the environment, to the planet. So I think all of these fall into the positive side of new age brand. I have met some of the companies here. I think the sense of purpose that they have, to me, is the most encouraging opportunity, and infrastructure is allowing them to have. I would like to add just one more thing. What has not changed is the fundamentals of brand building. And sometimes we have forgotten that. Do you have a great insight on what the problem is? What is the consumer looking for? What kind of product can you give which can actually satisfy their need? And can you build a relationship with the consumer as a brand which goes beyond just the product? I think these were the first things we learn in companies like Unilever. These are 100 years of learning. You cannot just assume that I have a great catalog of products and I will spend money on performance marketing and it will automatically become a big brand. It doesn't work like that. I think, Pramod, you said it beautifully. This is a long journey. This is not a 5-year journey. You need to be strong-hearted to want to build it because sustain it. I just did an interview with Harsh Mariwala. I mean, it was fascinating to hear 35 years of his experience of how he's built a brand. And he's built a $10 billion business and, something to be proud of. But it didn't happen overnight. So I think focus on brand, focus on consumer insight, focus on product, and focus on sustainably building for the long term. These have not changed. And I think these should not change because the business model will change. Today we are talking omni-channel, ONDC is coming. There are lots of interesting possibilities which will allow us to build businesses faster and more sustainable, more profitable, but without losing the core of what the essence of the brand is.
Absolutely. For the brands that you saw here, and some of the businesses, this is art being sold to the world, domestic, really not native art, I don't want to call it, but art made out of craftsmen who worked in India. There's brands being built, there's non-preservative consumer brands, etc. being built. What is your advice to them? How should they build their brand out? As you said, that hasn't changed. Recognizing how you build a brand hasn't changed. So how should they think about building the brand out? How should they think about going to market? Some advice for that would be great.
I think first of all, I would say the most important thing is discover the core value of what you're trying to build. I mean, what is your mission? What is your vision of why you're doing it? I think this is not just a business. I mean, if you were to do just a business, you're much better off, being in large corporates with large salaries. There has to be something which comes from the heart, something which you are doing as a mission, as a zeal. The Junoon word that the minister used. Identify first that, then I would say link it to the opportunity. I mean, I have met so many companies here, and what's heartening is everybody is doing it with that passion, with that purpose, which is more than just selling a product and trying to build a quick business out of that. Second, I would say is define the product market fit very, very clearly. There is no substitute for knowing who's your target audience. There's no substitute for knowing why are they buying you, and also are they buying you enough. Because buying the first sale is the easiest. No, you can give it away free, but even giving it free the second time, consumer will not take it if the product doesn't meet both the product and the brand requirements. So product market fit does not require cash. When we started out, we said we will write small checks of 4 or 5 crores. And everybody said, is that enough money? You'll have to spend on marketing. We said, we don't care. Even if 1,000 customers, 2,000 customers come back and say, we love what you're doing, and we really believe in both the brand and the product, that is enough. So that curve, the J curve as you call it, has to be understood by the companies. I think trying to rush for the revenue growth and all that, I think it's a VC-induced problem. I would completely ignore it. You have to build it with your conviction that you have found the product market is. And then, of course, the business challenges of, building the team, etc. So what I'm saying, that first journey is getting that conviction that I have got something that I believe in and I've got something consumers love, and maybe a small set of consumers, but at least I know there is a consumer for that.
And you have to be ready to change, right? You have to be ready to change your model, tweak your brand, figure out what customers like, what they don't like, and be able to show that you can be agile while defining exactly what you want to be. Would you say?
No, absolutely. In fact, two of my, I would say, favorite companies among many favorites is Epigamia and Paperboard. And both of them started with a completely different business. Hokey Pokey was an ice cream brand that Epigamia founder started, and Paperboard started with Zynga, which was an energy drink. And they realized that, I think that is the spirit of entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
The ability to pivot, the ability to question yourself, the ability to say, okay, I got it wrong, I want to move on. So, which is why I feel that the reason all of you are entrepreneurs is because you believe. And one of the, again, I'm saying this with the 50 investors sitting here, I hope some of you agree with me, but don't let investors tell you what your business is. Investors should believe in you and your business and write the check. And if somebody is telling you, listen, take my money and I'll tell you how to run it, please run faster. You have to be the, the charioteer, or you have to be the person driving the car.
So when you look at companies to invest in, obviously some have a great idea, but how much does the role of the founders itself play? How much do you depend on that? How important is that in the story? Something to the audience on that would be critical.
I think all of it, Pramod. To me, if I have to choose the top 3 things that we look for is all founder. And honestly, as early stage investors...
If I may just interrupt. So it's founder. Then it's idea. Then it's something else. And he's a very soft-spoken gentleman, so I'm just parroting this a little bit harder, which is founder. People invest behind founders more than they invest behind the idea itself. I think that is absolutely critical, right?
I totally agree. I think ideas will change. I think the clarity of vision has to be there. And a couple of interesting anecdotes, and these are all retrospective things, so it will sound very interesting. But I have experienced them. I invested in Paperboard on a paper plan. I invested in Licious on a paper plan. I invested in Mamaearth on the phone, not even on a paper plan. I spoke to Varun on a phone and I said, I love what you're doing. I want to write a check. So I think if you believe in the founder, if you believe that, success and failure will happen. I mean, I cannot say that, I have had more scars on my back on mistakes I made than successes I had. But if you believe that the founder or the founding team, and I would also say single founder is a lonely business. So whoever is doing it alone, hats off to you, but it's a very, very tough business to do it alone. But if you are passionate about it, if you believe in it, if you're all out and say, listen, this is my life, I would bet on you. And even if you're not successful, I will work very hard to try and make you successful. So that's the whole model of Fireside. And I think in 5 years, we have built a brand only on that one premise, saying it's founder first. And again, how do we live that? So we evaluate our team. The first question we ask them is, what did you do today to be founder first in your daily life of how you are helping your founders? But ultimately, you are backing the founder and their dream. I think I've always said we are kingmakers. I change that now to say we are queen makers, because I love the fact that there are so many women entrepreneurs. But I would never take the front stage. I mean, I would rather have entrepreneurs sitting here and me sitting over there listening to you guys.
When you're starting a new company up, you feel as if, getting that first check, getting that second check is so hard, right? It's so difficult. You feel as if you've done everything you can, and yet success isn't coming. And yet I always feel like encouraging people to say, stay the course. But just in reality, how do you stay the course when you're working off such a small budget, such frugal margins? How does it work? Some examples of that would be wonderful, because that is where your mettle is really tested.
I agree, Pramod. This is not, I can't trivialize that and say that that's not an issue. I think to me, the most important thing is get the conviction, get even small successes, get your small proof points ready. I think what is happening today is a very interesting 2-stage phenomenon. One is forums like this is gold dust. Not just because you're getting mentorship. I think I have realized this so many times that just the fundamental stuff needs some amount of shepherding, some amount of gray hair to help you. Thinking about brand, thinking about, even putting together the business plan, thinking about challenges to build the business. So getting an ecosystem of mentors, I was telling Sombi last night, if you can get a strong mentor network around you in Punjab, that is the first success driver in my mind. If you can get people to guide you, because what happens is there is so much of money. I mean, I have raised $400 million, 3,000 crores. 75% is from Indian families. So there is huge amount of money which is available in India and looking for good ideas. So therefore, to me, doing it one step at a time is very important. Defining what are those small baby milestones that you want to achieve to be comfortable first for yourself, because remember your opportunity cost. I always say founder sweat is more valuable than any money any investor can provide. So you are putting your life, your career, your opportunity cost at stake. First get confidence that I want to do this. So that's to me the first step.
Absolutely.
Once you cross that, I think this kind of forum, the fact that there are a lot of family offices, people are willing to back good stories, good ideas, is now opening up in a big way. So I don't think one should even raise a lot of money. I mean, I met a founder today morning, raising a small amount of money, and to me that is heartening, instead of saying, first of all, when I switched from Helion to Fireside, I said, no more $1 million, I want to talk lakhs of rupees. Because the mindset of $1 million just corrupts you, I think. So I do believe it's a tough task.
Yes.
I do believe, like the minister said, 90% of startups will struggle. Mm-hmm. But I think if you can not have that desire to say in 2 years I want to go IPO, I think every business will find its place under the sun if you are convinced. Because you will find believers who will believe in your belief. So first you have to convince yourself. If you are doing it as a, this is a business I am doing and I will do something else. So one of the things that we always check for is, do you have any other, are you all in? Is this your life and death, or is this something you're doing on the side while you have something else? And we have said no to very good opportunities where the founder already had some other business on the side and was doing it as a, one more project.
Absolutely. I think one of the examples, we don't have many minutes left, but a couple more questions and then. But one example I wanted to give everyone, Sunil Mittal, who's someone I admire greatly, who's one of India's best entrepreneurs, always tells me the story that as to how little money he had. He borrowed 50,000 rupees from Brijmohan Munjal at one time. He had to borrow that money when he was in Singapore. He was saying he was in a hotel. He had no money to pay the bill. He had to borrow money from Brijmohan Munjal and say, can you please lend me the money? And Brijmohan was, a wonderful, wonderful human being who built Hero and gave him the money. And that's where he started from. Now, today we don't realize he's worth 18 billion or whatever it is. But we don't realize that's where he started from. There was a time when I used to eat chocolate bars for dinner. I just want you to know. I'm sitting here, but I wasn't short of money. My parents said, but in RBI restrictions, I was in London. They couldn't send me money. We didn't earn enough money. There was not enough to earn. So last 5 days of the month, there was a Cadbury's fruit and nut bar, which became my favorite friend for dinner every night. So we just go through these places, go through things. I was in Estonia. I was talking to a startup there. I said, how did you manage? And they said, we ended up at a point where we would eat really, literally. We would work without much electricity, just one bulb, and we would eat breakfast cereal for breakfast, lunch, dinner. So you do most things like that. I hope none of you have to go through those things, but obviously that's a reality. I'll close in a couple of minutes, but a couple of things. Two big questions. You've been talking to startups all the time. You have a great enthusiasm for it. What do you love about it? Tell me that first. And two, tell us from a Punjab standpoint, what more should we do? Not as I am Punjab, but collectively, the state of Punjab, all of us. What more can we do to really bring about this vibrancy that Punjabis already have?
So I think what I love, I already said, I love the energy, I love the spirit, I love, just seeing that passion which, drives entrepreneur. And if they are doing it with a sense of purpose, then I see almost like, I feel humbled by that experience. So to me, it's always been, I learn from startups and entrepreneurs more than anything. I can, generally give gyan all the time, but, I think the learning for us has always been, how do you, grow as a human being? The second one, I think, is again something I said earlier. I truly believe that this is a great time for entrepreneurship. Because infrastructurally, again, the minister talked about AI, he talked about technology. All these are enablers. To me, the more the payment system, the logistics, there are so many things. Talking to Jazz in the morning about converting rural ideas into global. So I think there is no shortage of ideas, no shortage of infrastructure. I think you need to create forums like this, which can provide mentorship. And I'm just repeating that point again. That getting companies to, because in India, for a very long period of time, we will have first-time entrepreneurs. So what is happening? You are learning from others. And if you can create an ecosystem where people can provide, I was talking about in the 2000, early 2005, 2010, when the tech boom was happening, it was really driven by a lot of people coming from the US and providing that mentorship, because product management, selling to global markets, all of this was very alien to Indian systems. Similarly, on the consumer side today, we have all our colleagues from Levers and other places, Amazon, Flipkart, they are becoming mentors. And that to me is if you can encourage more and more of mentorship, because money follows. Now, if I get introduced to a company, again, I'm taking an example, as a specific example, if Jazz comes and says, listen, I've been mentoring this company for the last 5 years, as an investor, it gives me automatically some confidence that, there's something happening here which is in a certain context. So I am Punjab can become almost the fountainhead for saying, these are founders, these are ideas which we have confidence in. And that then the money follows. So to me, it's not about getting first investor interest. I'm saying it's first getting mentors to come in. The rest follows. I strongly believe, and I think this is a great start. So congratulations.
Very good. Kamal, thank you so much.